Hello, everybody. All right, I think I'm live. I need to go check, but welcome to Philly. This is my friend Philly, everyone.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here again. I think we did the perimeno. Yeah. When was
We
that?
sure did. Yeah, I wonder how many people are going to have watched the perimeno and know you already. But my gosh, you guys, I'm going to read Philly's bio shortly. But while everyone's joining, Philly has won more awards than I can actually recall counting. It feels like every week on her socials, she's posting some other award that she's won. It's incredible. She is a fountain of wisdom and knowledge, and we get to pick her brains tonight and learn from her. I can't refresh. You're in the Facebook group, Philly. Can you just check that that all is well? Because my phone's not behaving.
Let me have a look.
Oh, there we are. It's just refreshed. Yes, we are good. And we've got some people starting to join us. Thanks to those joining us. Please say hello in the comments. Tell us if you've met Philly before at the perimeno workshop or in her own world on socials. Oh, good. I'm glad you can see us. Can you hear us too? I'm sure you can. Otherwise, you would have said.
There we
go. Beautiful. Thanks for saying hi.
I can see us too.
Now, if you haven't already, in the description of this post, you will see a little link that says allow StreamYard to see your name or something like that. Please, can you click that so that we can see your name, because we're going to do a bit of chatting tonight, especially at the end for Q&A time, and we'd love to know your name. So if you can, just click it. I believe it's a one-click thing, and then you'll be able to just come straight back here. So you won't miss anything. And we'd love to know who we're talking with. And someone said they're new to Philly. All right. Well, for those new to Philly, let me I'm going to read her official bio here. Well, it's your very short bio. I know you've got a much longer one. Di said, yeah. Di said she's met Philly before. Awesome, Di. Okay, so Philly is the author of the brand spanking new book, which I've had sneaky access to, which you guys, of course, I'm going to be excited about this book simply because of the topic and my own personal journey, and Philly's a friend. But to be completely honest, I just told Philly this before we came on live. To be completely honest, I was expecting quite a sciencey, data-driven book, which I also love. But I was delighted to see that this book has that, but it is written in this deliciously accessible way. It's kind of like the experience of reading the book is kind of like hanging out with a bestie, but the bestie is actually able to transform your life, not just give you a hug and say that they love you. Like, it is phenomenal, the job that she's done crafting this so very thoughtfully to make it super personable, super casual, but also just spot on with all these actionable, like, she doesn't skip out any helpful strategies and systems. And I'm not even going to say tips and tricks, because this is meaty stuff. This is like the things that you can do to transform your life from a place of body burnout to a place of thriving and being so well. So I got distracted. This is her bio. Philly is the author of Philly's the author of the new book, Ending Body Burnout, and it's due to be released at the end of this month. She's got a cutting-edge approach to addressing chronic health issues with a root cause approach, and we'll have her explain that in just a minute. She's revolutionizing functional medicine by looking at why body systems have burnt out in the first place. And so, yes, diet, lifestyle, environment, and genetics are all important, but Philly believes that baggage, which is, our beliefs, trauma, programming, stuck in the unconscious mind, has an even bigger role to play in body burnout, and also might be why you're not healing even though you're doing all the healthy things. So I hope you can relate to some of what I've just said. But also, Philly, while we're here, can you please also just give our beautiful people who are joining us? Oh, hi, Kat. I'll come back to you in a second. Can you just tell everyone, I guess, your qualifications, who you studied with? It's all very impressive. I know you've got this long list of awards, et cetera, but who are you? Like, what's your practice? What do you do?
Yeah, awesome. So we have a functional medicine practice, Chris and Philly Functional Medicine. Chris is my husband. And we're best known for ending body burnout in busy people with energy, mood, and gut issues. So I got into this work after my own body burnout experience, after having kids, and then things just got worse and worse as the years went on. And then that didn't feel normal because generally, after you have children, you kind of bounce back, or so you're supposed to. So I then started studying nutritional medicine, became a qualified clinical nutritionist, and even then, using food as medicine was absolutely foundational to my healing, and I definitely got improvements. And like, I don't think you can heal a body if you're filling it up with junk food. So it's so important. But what I found was there were still symptoms that were hanging around, and things, and almost like I had to manage myself, like wrap myself up in cotton wool so that I didn't have flare-ups. And I didn't think that that was the way that one should live. So then I discovered functional medicine and started studying with Dr. Daniel Kalish. I did a 3-year mentorship with him, American doctor. He has a company called Kalish Institute of Functional Medicine. That was mind-blowing because then I actually discovered all these imbalances in my body. Even though GPs, medical specialists that I saw earlier said all my tests were fine and it was just part of being a mother. So then that was the next layer of healing. And everything was fine and dandy for a few years until COVID hit. And then all my symptoms came back again. And this time nothing physical helped. I was just like, very annoyed and frustrated that the symptoms had come back. But in my head, I'm like, well, I know I've solved it before. I can solve it again. Let's just run a bunch of lab tests. Let's take some supplements. Let's get back on the healing diets. Let's, stop stressing about COVID. But nothing I did worked at all. And then that's where I'm like, I haven't addressed the deepest root yet. So I continued going deep into my inner self, which is essentially, we'll talk a lot about the unconscious mind today, because that is a part of healing that hardly anyone is talking about in functional medicine. And it is so important.
Okay, so before we dig into it, can you explain what the root cause is? We've all heard about the root cause, and maybe give everyone a quick definition of what the root cause is, but then what is the root cause?
Yeah, okay. So the root cause is, why do you have the symptoms in the first place? So if you go to the GP, they might give you a bunch of, like, a label. You have anxiety or you have Crohn's disease, and then you'll often be just given some medication or surgery, or just told to live with it. So in functional medicine, clinical nutrition, even naturopathy, then it's like, all right, well, why are the symptoms there in the first place? So that's where you're going deeper into the root causes. And generally, practitioners are looking at lifestyle and nutrition and sleep and movement and environment and toxins and mold and genetics and all that, which are all really important. I call those surface level root causes because they absolutely impact the body and they can absolutely then lead to symptoms. But then I just love asking the question, why? Like, why is somebody, so if we think about environmental toxins, for example, why is one person, and even genetic mutations, why is one person really sensitive to, say, mold, yet the next person isn't? Why is someone really sensitive to gluten, yet the next person isn't? And then you can look at the body systems and it's like, well, often they'll have similar body system imbalances. And then it's like, well, there must be something deeper going on. And then when we think about behavior or thought patterns or habits that then lead to poor health, well, why are they there in the first place? Yeah, they might be the root cause, but what's the deeper root that's actually the machine that's driving the behavior, thought patterns, and then the body burnout symptoms? So the root, well, we're getting right into the root cause. I believe, and this is my personal experience, and now since implementing this very deep, holistic root cause approach to healing, is that the results that I saw for myself and now also for our clients are phenomenal when we work on beliefs stuck in the unconscious state. So dysfunctional, self-limiting beliefs. Because if you have and often they're hidden as well. So for me, I had no idea that I had dysfunctional beliefs stuck in the unconscious state. One of my deep ones was around being weak and incapable. Yet my behavior pattern showed otherwise. It's like, look at all the things I can do. I forgot to mention I've done a PhD and, and like, oh, like, look at this business I'm running. And actually, I did never think I was a very good mum. I was like an okay mum. But, I was juggling a lot of stuff. And that was a pattern that went right back to when I was a teenager, getting good grades, high achiever. From the outside, everyone thought I was very strong and capable. But inside, there was so much fear that was causing or driving my behavior that then broke down body systems. And then even when I was healing at like a physical or a root cause surface level, it was a lot of fear-based driven, because I'm like, okay, when I got really sick, for example, then my unconscious was like, oh my gosh, you're going to get found out finally that you're weak and incapable. And so then therefore it drove these behavioral patterns around getting healthy. So like I was really anal with food, for example. I'm like, I'm not touching any sugar, including fruit, for a whole 6 months to get rid of this candida. And, I went at it pretty hard, and I actually thought that was normal. I'm like, look at me. I'm so good at sticking to a plan. Yet my nervous system was just so dysregulated because of deeper stuff that was driving my behavior and thought patterns.
Oh, this is going to be juicy tonight. I remember, okay, so when we were talking about what topic, because there are 4 areas of ending body burnout that Philly talks about in her principles that she speaks about in her book and in her work. And one of them we're going to speak mostly about tonight, which is heal thy mind, which I think we chose together, but I feel like it's for me. I remember when I was reading your book, I think that first I'm going to say, when you and Chris interviewed me on your podcast about my body burnout, and, I said, I'm on a mission to, eradicate stress from my life because that's the root cause of all my bodily symptoms. And you guys said to me, okay, Lainey, but what's the root cause? Like, why is there stress in your life? And you could name all these external stressors, but no. Why, what is the root cause of the stress? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, maybe it's my 5 kids. And then I was reading your book and I was like, oh, now that makes sense. And I could relate to the stories of the 3 protagonists in your book. And in fact, maybe now's a good time, the 3, because I think they're going to come up. You've got these 3 women in your book who help you tell the story. And these women represent, I guess, the different types of maybe clients that have come in through your way. You'll probably explain it better. Just briefly, who are these 3 women?
Yeah. Well, when I was writing the book or thinking about what I wanted this to look like, what Lainey said in terms of her experience of it's just like a lovely friend who can actually transform your life. That's exactly what I was hoping the book would do. So that was great. But I wanted it to be really relatable, and also for you, the reader, to feel connected to it. And so anyway, I developed these 3 characters, which are basically composites of all the many women that we've worked with who are running busy, perfectionism, overdoing, people-pleasing patterns, and now their body is failing them. And so there's Rose, Hazel, Isla. I actually chose names of people that we have never worked with because I'm like, oh my gosh, if a client like 5 years ago, good old Rose, read this book, she might think I've written it all about her. Yeah, but I essentially follow those. So the 4 different parts of the book. So we look at body systems. So you can't have physical symptoms without there being some sort of body system imbalance. Like I never say it's all in your head, even though now I say it kind of cheekily. It's like, well, actually it could be the brain or the unconscious state, which is kind of in the head. And I build out those stories with the ladies in terms of what lab test did we do with them? What symptoms were they showing up with? What imbalances showed up in the body. And then, so that was identifying imbalances at the body systems level. And then the other 3 sections are kind of like how do we go about fixing this? How do we go about rebalancing the body? So the first, or part 2, sorry, is heal thy mind, which we're going to talk more specifically about today. Then heal thy body, which is all about the food and the sleep and the movement to heal the body. And then heal thy environment, which is going more into environmental toxins. And also, how can you get your family on board to support you? And how can you make a ripple effect, not just in your family now, but in generations to come?
I particularly loved that last, sorry, Philly. I particularly loved that last little bit, the happy home at the end. That was such a good spot to end on. Yeah.
I can't believe you read the whole book today.
Well, no, I didn't read the whole book today. I read a lot. I read a lot of it, and then I skimmed the last bit that I couldn't get time to. But I'm ridiculously excited to get into it. I don't think there's been a book that I've been so excited to get into because it's so highly relevant for me. And I've come so far, but I know that tonight, what we're speaking about, I feel like this is probably the little missing piece for me. Maybe the big missing piece for me. So,
the big missing piece.
Yeah, the big missing piece. So for everyone live, welcome. If we haven't welcomed you yet, please can you put in the comments, are you currently in a bit of a body burnout state? Are you in survival mode? Do you feel like your adrenals are crashed? Like, where are you? And also, if you have a question for Philly, we are hoping to have some minutes at the end for questions for Philly. So I'm trying to, I think probably the best thing to do with your questions is probably hold out with your questions until the end, because otherwise they will get lost. But yeah, say hi to Philly. Tell us where you're at with your journey with body burnout. We would absolutely love to hear. Carrie says, I think I've been in body burnout and I'm actively working on getting out of it. Yeah, Carrie, awesome. So good. Carrie's in our coaching membership. I feel like we should have you as a guest expert in our coaching membership. I'm just going to put you on the spot live.
Well, actually, I was going to ask you too, let's do a swap so you can come into our program too.
Awesome. Okay, I'm all for that. But let's get into it because, in some places of the country, it's getting quite late. So, heal thy mind. As I was scanning the headings at the start, I thought it was quite funny. I've never noticed this about the word healthy before, but healthy probably comes from heal thy. Like all your chapters are heal thy body, heal thy mind, heal thy home. And when I was scanning it, I just read it as healthy. And I thought, oh my gosh, of course, that's what healthy means.
How cool is that? I stole that off Chris, by the way, contributing author.
I like that. Kay says, I too am in the depths of burnout, thinking the book may be great for me. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's do this, Philly. We promised 4 things tonight. Let's start with number 1. Can we talk about the impact of stress on body systems and how to test for imbalances? And even maybe beyond, I know that you're a huge fan of lab tests, which I am too. Can you also talk a little bit about what are some ways that we can kind of feel our way with it and kind of know what's going on even before we get that confirmation from a lab test, like some little hints and tricks as to how we can actually suss it out for ourselves?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, and it is not live. It's in a short course that we did, and I really need to put it on our website, but I'll give it to you, Lainey. I'll have to find it. But I did create a scorecard specifically around the 3 body systems that we test and recorrect. So neuroendocrine system, the gastrointestinal system, and the detoxification system. And there's, I think, maybe 10 or 12 questions for each of those body systems. And then you can clearly see if there is potential imbalances based on the unique combination of symptoms that you have. So I'll give you guys that resource.
Yes, that sounds awesome.
But, most people or clients that we work with have energy, mood, or gut issues. So generally when someone's in a state of body burnout, there's exhaustion, there's brain fog, there's mood imbalances, whether that's full-on anxiety, depression, or just like you're suddenly irritable and snappier than what you used to be. The smallest things are triggering you. That's where you know that you're becoming quite dysregulated. Or if you're like, far out, I used to be able to work from 9 to 5 or longer. Now my brain isn't working properly, or my eyes feel like they're like so tired, like they need to fall out of my sockets. So there's kind of like the earlier signs, which are more subtle, and then there's the more extreme signs of like, I can't even get out of bed anymore. I can't parent anymore. I actually have to shut down my business or delegate a bunch of stuff because I can't adult anymore in life. And then often when there's that body burnout, and so two big body systems that I think about there are the adrenals, as Lainey said, and also the brain. So your neurotransmitters, dopamine, adrenaline, and serotonin, because when you're burning the candle at both ends, doing everything for everyone else, struggling to relax, even if you go on holidays, feeling like you need to please everybody, and if you don't, it's unsafe. So these are kind of like patterns that I'm thinking about in terms of like, oh, if you haven't yet got symptoms, you're probably going to get them soon. And so when that happens, your adrenals are producing a bucket load of cortisol. DHEA is the balancing stress hormone. At some point, it's like we can't keep control of cortisol anymore, so DHEA depletes, and then you're left in a chronic state of fight or flight. But on the other hand, too, the neurotransmitters get a hit as well. So adrenaline is just pumping through your body when you're stressed and overwhelmed. Running busy patterns. Sometimes people aren't stressed and overwhelmed. They're just like going full on, and your body's still producing a bunch of stress hormones because of that. And then over time, dopamine, adrenaline, serotonin will deplete too. And then when those systems, the adrenals and the brain, have flunked out, then your body becomes so dysregulated because you're in that constant sympathetic nervous system state. And then your other organs can't function very well. So that's where people start developing gut issues, skin issues, hormonal issues, heavy metal toxicity, thyroid issues. And the more chronic and the more burnt out the body is, then the more symptoms one has. And often it's where, you know, we had a client recently. I think she's only been working with us for over a month, and like all her symptoms are almost gone. But she came with a massive folder, or it was via Zoom. So she sent me through a massive folder of all the different practitioners, all the different tests, all the different supplements, all the different symptoms. And like, that's a case of where the body has just burnt out.
Yeah. And I'm flabbergasted. I feel like it's so common, and I will put my hand up for this one, because for quite a few years I thought food was the answer to everything, and I thought that I was invincible, and I mean I could just, food could power me to do superhuman things, and I could, just run and just never quit. And it wasn't until I burnt out that, and then, like you said, if you leave it long enough, it's going to then have this domino effect through multiple body systems. And I can absolutely put my hand up and say, yeah, the neuroendocrine system, the gastrointestinal system, the detoxification system, like it all starts going. And I'm so thrilled to, have tapped into such a wonderful support network of wisdom, and you are leading the way with this particular issue that so many women in particular, I don't know, is that fair to say that it's women in particular?
There's a lot of men too, but women, and this is why, I mean, we work with both men and women, but I wanted the book to be specifically for women because we have our own unique juggling act.
Yeah.
And unconscious reprogramming, generational, like, we're supposed to be at home and looking after the kids, but then modern women are also supposed to be out in the workforce, bringing in money to the family. So there's just so many mixed messages happening inside of us that we're not even aware. And then that's what actually causes a lot of the overwhelm, where it's like, I don't even know who I am or what I should be doing, or, what is it to be a good woman? And so then it's you feeling like you have to do everything. Otherwise, it is unsafe to go to bed without your to-do list ticked off.
Yeah, that's right. And that reminds me of the Barbie movie. I don't know if everyone's seen that, but there's this like powerful moment in the Barbie movie where this one of the friends gets up and speaks about the tension of being a modern woman and how we're just expected to do all the things and how it's impossible and doesn't make sense. So that's what's feeding a lot of this stuff. Can you tell us, actually, let me just see if that's working. I know we've got a little bit of a flow. I just want to, you know what? No, is there anything else you want to say about this first point before we move on to point 2 about the deepest cause of body burnout?
Well, no, unless there's like specific questions around the body systems or testing. I mean, there's different ways of testing adrenals. We generally use saliva because it's very convenient. Urine can also be tested for that. The neurotransmitters, I just love that you can test your brain via your urine. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. I used to think that neurotransmitters and hormones, I used to kind of think that they were these theoretical feelings almost that just didn't have substance. And it's so far from the truth. Every time you feel stress, anxiety, worry, tension, anger, like all of these things create real chemical reactions in our body that then have to be filtered by the liver, which, you know, as you know, like it's just, can you speak into that? Can you just tell us, like, how do our feelings actually impact on the various systems of the body?
Yes.
How does that actually work?
Yeah, well, maybe we can even dive into the second question, because then that'll even look at it at an even deeper level.
All right, let's do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Then we can kind of talk into what actually is stress. Because it's not like, going back to your experience on our podcast, I'm very sorry for putting you, we put all our people on the spot. It's like,
oh no, I'm an open book. It's totally fine. Yep, go for it.
Yeah, so it's not stress that is impacting us. It's our response to stress, and essentially it's our response to stress. And so the way that affects the body, okay, maybe I'll talk about that, and then we'll go into the next, into what actually is the deepest root cause. So if you're feeling stressful feelings, overwhelm, guilt, shame, people probably know Dr. Will Cole, who has written a book recently called Gut Feelings. He talks about physical stuff, but he talks a whole heap about metaphysical stuff as well, and he coined the term shame flammation, which I thought was really cool. I think I might have even quoted that in my book, shame flammation. And he used that specifically because just in the way that if we sniffed chlorine or petrol fumes, I mean, that's toxic inflammation. That's like a physical inflammatory that is going to alert our body, first of all, that we're in danger. So then cortisol, you get a little spurt of cortisol and adrenaline. So that's the adrenals in the brain. And then, like Lainey said before, you have to filter out these chemicals, like they're hormones in the body. And so if they're flooding throughout your system, then that puts a load on the detox pathways, but also it switches your gut off. So when you're in that fight-flight response, you're not in rest and digest. And so that's where the immune system can become suppressed, and then you can have pathogens overgrowing, or it might be where you're then picking up a lot of viral pathogens, or someone might develop long haul COVID or have glandular fever issues for 10 years. Leaky gut, there is actually research that shows that stress causes leaky gut. Because when you're in adrenal fatigue, you become catabolic. So you actually start eating away at muscle tissue from your gut lining, from your joints, burning up your minerals, cellular damage. And that's just because you're feeling stressed. I mean, not just because, but it's massive. I feel like in today's age, and I think COVID really sped things up a lot for people, and we'll talk a little bit about trauma as well, but it was just like collective trauma for the whole world. And I don't think people's bodies have recovered from that. And I saw that in clinic as well. So not only did my symptoms flare up again, but I had a bunch of clients too, where it's just like, you were good like a year or two ago. Why are you back with the same issues? What's going on in this world?
Yes. I found myself nodding enthusiastically through like the entire last little paragraph that you've been talking about, like the physical aspects of stress on the body, because it's I guess it's the biggest learning for me for the last few years or the last decade for me has been exactly that. And I wish that someone had spelt it out earlier for me when I was earlier on in that survival mode, body burnout stage of life. And I'm excited that there are women here tonight who are earlier on in that stage. And I would just plead with you that you actually take action before I did. And before Philly, well, actually, no, Philly, you did really well. You've had 3 bouts of it, right? So you've actually taken action every time. But I was a very slow learner. And
yeah, no, what you know, what's that saying? You can only do what you know. And although I look back in hindsight, I'm like, this could have been a very quick healing project had I known all the things that I now know.
Yeah.
But if I did, well, I didn't. If I did, we probably wouldn't have the book Ending Body Burnout Method because it would have felt too easy.
Yes, that's so true. And I feel like as women who are in that stage of body burnout, I told myself that I'd drawn a line in the sand more times than I could count. You know how you start on Monday, and so then I started, that saying, like that feeling like, okay, I'm going to start fresh on Monday. I'm excited. It's a new page. I'm going to commit to all these things. I'm going to do all these things, and I'm not going to do all those things. Here I go. And I feel like I made that decision like ridiculous amounts of times before I actually saw it through. And I feel like the pain had to be big enough to make that happen. But also I wasn't clued in enough on the root causes of what was going on. But also when you're in that state, you have such low reserves to draw from and your mind is clouded. There's so much working against you at that point that you really do need quite a clear system and you need a cheer squad to kind of drag you along if you just don't have it in you. And so I feel like there's a lot of strength in gathering women around you who have either been through it or understand what you need to do to get through.
For sure. Yeah.
Carrie just said, I was told that every time my blood oxygen dropped low, my body would have stopped digestion and rest. Yeah.
Stress. You were in a stress response. Yeah.
Incredible stuff. Okay. So stress is not so great. Okay. So what about actually, yeah, you're right. We do need a bit of stress in our life, but most of us have too much.
I always joke. I'm like, cortisol is actually very helpful. Otherwise, we'd all be walking out in front of a truck and there'd be no one on earth.
Yes, good point. So the deepest root cause of body burnout, please can you discuss?
Yes. Okay. So I love that you said before, so you got physical inflammation. So in our practice, we believe that there's 2 causes of body burnout: physical inflammation, which we've touched on, and metaphysical inflammation. And then if you ask why enough, it usually ends up that metaphysical inflammation is where it is at, guys. And so I don't know if it's possible to play a little game with maybe the comment box, but I love the word, how is that a problem? And this is a process that we take clients through, and I'm pretty sure it's in the book. There's so much in the book, but not everything is in the book. How is that a problem? So if you think about like an issue that you have with your body, or maybe even your behavior that is then leading to stress and overwhelm and body burnout symptoms, how is that a problem? And when I ask this to clients, they're like, of course it's a problem. Like, it's a very big problem. So is this Kay has put something in there?
Yeah.
I feel completely like no one currently understands where I'm at. Physical pain, psychological issues, depression, anxiety, as well as fatigue, gut issues. Yeah. And this is the thing. It often becomes everything. It's like, whether it's the physical stuff that popped up first or the mental stuff, at some point they both show up then you feel very stuck in this stuck cycle.
Yeah.
But all my regular bloods are normal, and these newer types of medicine, naturopathy, are so financially unachievable at the moment to get the help that's needed to dig deeper. Okay, Kay, this might be really helpful for you because the lady that I was talking about earlier had done so much already. And then when she worked on the metaphysical stuff, which requires no lab testing, no supplements, no nothing except for being in her mind and in her body, phenomenal results within a month, which was just insane because this has been a chronic issue for like 20 years. So how is that a problem? So if we maybe take an issue like exhaustion, it's like, Lainey, maybe we'll have a little play and you can use it, or we can do something specific to you, or you can just pretend that you're someone else. Like exhaustion, how is that a problem?
All right. Exhaustion. How is that a problem? Okay. So when I'm exhausted, I am not able to show up for myself the way I want to. I'm not able to show up for the people I love the way I want to. I can't realize my dreams and visions for my future because I can't be bothered. And then I feel frustrated that I'm not getting there, and it just creates more and more negativity. Is that is that where you're going with it?
Yeah, that's pretty dark. Well, how is that a problem?
Oh, gee. Okay. How is that a problem? Ultimately, I would not be fulfilling my life's mission and purpose. That's big. That's really big. I wasn't expecting it to go there, but there's nowhere else for it to go.
Okay. And then when you're not able to do that, how does that make you feel about yourself?
Failure.
Okay. And then essentially, what does that mean about you as a human?
That I'm not good enough, that I'm a bad person. I'm not good enough.
Yeah. Or probably even specifically, I'm a failure.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so, sorry to put you on the spot.
No.
But I think it's really helpful because the thing is, the deepest root cause of body burnout is occurring at an identity level. And so in our unconscious state, we're holding onto a whole heap of core unconscious beliefs about ourselves. Now, if we're healthy and we're happy and we have all the things that we desire, then highly likely our beliefs are going to be really kind and loving. But a lot of the times they're not. And that is because as children before the age of 7, we start, okay, let me just backtrack. So before the age of 7, before the age of 2, 50% of our beliefs about ourselves and our self-talk is created before the age of 2. A child can't even talk properly before the age of 2. Before the age of 7, it's 80%. And so then these kids, us, are then growing up to be teenagers and adults and even like the elderly. And we're living, 95% of the population continue living childish beliefs about themselves that were created during a time of distress or trauma or embarrassment or humiliation, and not knowing why their life and their body is a mess.
Oh, Philly. I was particularly struck by this exact principle in your book. You spoke about Rose. I believe it was Rose. Correct me if I'm wrong. One of your characters that you created in the book, her mum was quite aloof as when she was a child, and so she had to work quite hard in life. She felt she had to work quite hard to earn people's love because she felt she was unlovable because her mother was aloof. But then you took the reader through this process where, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the child actually made a choice, subconsciously, but the child is actually responsible for creating that reality in their mind that their mother didn't love them because she was aloof. It's not the child's fault, but as an adult, we can look back at our childhood and go, well, I had an opportunity, like I now have an opportunity to actually see that for what it was. My mother was going through whatever it was. I'm not unlovable. That's now my choice to let that go and be responsible for my own reality. Can you explain that better?
You perfectly. For having just read it today, you explained it perfectly. So a lot of, and this is where when clients come to work with us, because we're doing both physical and metaphysical. So most people have either done like a bunch of physical stuff or a bunch of metaphysical stuff, whether it's working with a psychologist or a therapist or counselor. But what's very different, or what a lot of people say, is like, oh yeah, I was just told that like I'm like this because that's how I was brought up. I'm modeling how I was brought up. And yes, that's true to an extent, but it's really disempowering, because it's like you can't go back and change your childhood. However, you can make a choice around whether you believe that or not, because you made the choice in the first place. And yes, it often happens unconsciously. It's not like a little child is like, my mum was not there for me. She emotionally neglected me. Therefore, I must be unlovable, because don't all parents love their children? And like, look, I'm sure it would happen consciously at some point. Dealing with an 8-year-old and some beliefs that were created on her 5th birthday. And she knows, because I have the right questions to ask her. She clearly identified the day in which she believed that she wasn't lovable. Oh. And it was all my fault on her 5th birthday. Wow. Mummy didn't do anything right. Blah, 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 blah. I'm blah, blah, blahing now. Wow. Because I tried my hardest to make that birthday really special. But yeah, she made a choice. And so now, like, it's really good that we know these processes, because now we can help her start reprogramming them and seeing a different perspective.
That's incredible that you have those tools. I feel like I need those tools as a mother. You actually you do provide, there's a great list of self-limiting beliefs, like power suckers, I think you call them. And it's very good, what's the word? I guess triggers to help you think through some of those self-limiting beliefs that you might be carrying from your childhood that you may not have realized. I remember listening to you and Joe Witten from Quirky Cooking. I was going to call her Joe Quirky. And I could also relate to a lot of, in your childhood, you in that podcast interview, you identified some of the beliefs that you created as a child, and it suddenly brought some of mine clear in my mind as well, because like I said at the beginning of our chat tonight, I feel like this is my topic. This is where I need to do some work, and I'm quite unaware sometimes of a lot of these things. And so I have just been delighting in tapping into some of this. And I think there's a lot there for most of us who haven't given this the time that you have. This is all very new, and you may not even, I've known for quite some time. I've said to Jordan quite a few times, I said, like, I know that there's stuff there for me to work on, but I just have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like your book actually took me through a process, and now that I've, of course I crammed it for tonight, but I'm really looking forward to going back through it slowly so that I can actually do the work, because it actually prompts you through it. And that, I feel like that's what I've needed and have been missing.
Yeah. And so with these deeper core beliefs as well. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to see how if someone had a belief that they're unlovable or weak or damaged, that then it's going to affect thoughts and feelings and behaviors and the lifestyle. And then therefore health issues start showing up. But for me, when I was doing this deeper work for myself, I was really struggling with histamine intolerance. Was a big symptom that popped up again during COVID, and like just horrid heartburn. No matter what I ate, it was always there. And a big thing for me, so being weak and incapable, was that, that transfers to what I think about my body as well. So even though I was treating it, and my behavior patterns were like, I love my body and look at all the healthy things I'm doing, and I'm doing the low histamine diet, and I'm doing the lab testing, and I'm making sure I go to sleep at night, and I'm going for my walks, and I'm doing even breath work, and all the lovely things that are so healthy. Yet because I hadn't addressed that deepest root cause belief, my whole body, my unconscious state was like, we are continuing to send you pain until you address this. Because currently this is sucking the life out of you. And generally when we hit midlife, which is sort of later 30s onwards, your whole system is like, no, we're done. We're sick of living like a child, holding on to these lies about yourself. And it's ruining you in so many ways. And so it was a few months into doing this deeper work, but I had this realization where it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't actually trust my body. I don't trust my body that it can function on its own. And so I went through a stage where I'm just like, I am no supplements. I'm going to be really just loose with my eating. And I'm just going to focus on just loving my body and completely trusting it. Like, hey, you've got this body. This is what you're designed to do. You're designed to digest food. You're designed to have an immune system that will keep you safe, but not hypervigilant. And like, that was just mind blowing from a physical point of view too, that within a day, my histamine intolerance disappeared. Gone.
Whoa, that's incredible.
Whereas before it was like, well, I mean, like going back 10, 15 years, I had a few years where I didn't have it. And then another year where I had it, ongoing chronic. And then it's just like, great, thank you. You've listened to me. Cool. Now we don't need to send you that pain signal anymore.
Amazing. Do you know what? I hadn't planned on sharing this tonight, but I feel like it's the right time. I had been bloating a lot because of the stress and the burnout, the leaky gut that the stress had caused, yada, yada, yada. And I had just randomly, I realized one day when I was moisturizing after a shower, I was just moisturizing my legs and my arms and my chest and my face as I'd normally do, but I'd completely been missing my torso. And I feel like I've got a fairly healthy body image in terms of just loving myself no matter what state I'm in. But living in our modern world, of course, it's hard to shed it all. And I had realized that after 5 cesareans, you know, I've got the scar there from the cesareans, and any extra weight I have kind of just hangs over the top of that scar. And I'd grown a little bit of a dislike for that area, and I just wasn't touching it. I wasn't moisturizing it. I was showing no love to it whatsoever. And so I just started to moisturize it and kind of show appreciation for this place that grew 5 of my beautiful babies and, you know, keeps me nourished. And, you know, I was just kind of giving a bit of love for it, and my bloating really reduced. So isn't that interesting? What we're speaking about now is
so
it's very
cool.
Very cool.
Not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence. And you might say it's, you know, a bit airy fairy fluffy, but my gosh, like I'm learning more and more that the metaphysical, as you've called it, is actually very scientific.
Yes.
But listen, I wanted to save. I've been skipping some of the questions till the end, but I really want to put this one to you now. I feel like this is a good one to talk about right now.
Yeah. Do you want to read it out?
Yeah, sorry. My mum, one of the comments says, my mum hit me until I was 16 and I left home. I forgave her as she had a miserable life, but it doesn't remove the trauma. So, Philly, what would you say to that?
I'm sorry that you experienced that. Like, there's so much. Here's the thing with trauma is that now that's domestic violence. So that's what I would call big T trauma. Yeah. Then there's a bunch of like little T trauma where a lot of people who have had a happy, normal upbringing have also experienced trauma because their little bodies couldn't process what was going on. And I mentioned that because I think that this will be like this, what we're talking about right here is relevant for everyone, regardless of whether you've had just like normal life stuff that is now stuck in your system as trauma and big T trauma. So forgiveness is great, but trauma remains in the body as a broken videotape loop. So you can clear trauma. Trauma can be done. Like, in fact, we have clients, we use a really specific process at a point in time in our ending body burnout method that resolves trauma in 2 weeks. Like, done, gone. You don't have to be in counseling or therapy for 10 years in order to get rid of trauma. And so trauma, just like the beliefs, are stuck in the unconscious state. And instead of what should happen is if something distressing happened in the past or even now, if you process that, you had the capacity to do that, and if it wasn't chronic and all the time, then your system basically timestamps that and puts it in your hippocampus just as a neutral memory. what often happens is if that's not addressed or processed properly, then it gets stuck in the unconscious state like a broken videotape loop, and it's going round and round and round in the unconscious state as if it's happening now. And so that's where people continue holding on to trauma, and their body is having trauma responses. And that's like definitely affects the adrenals and the brain and causes all these body symptoms as well. So the thing also with trauma is it is always tied up with dysfunctional beliefs about yourself or self-limiting beliefs. It's like, why did that happen to me? I must be bad. I must be wrong. I must be damaged. I must be broken. I must be unworthy of love. And you could forgive someone else, but if you haven't yet restored a broken relationship with yourself and forgave yourself for accusing yourself of the thing that you believed about yourself, then that trauma just continues staying in your system, because that's kind of why it's there. It's not necessarily the hurt that was done to you. It's that at some point, if it's not processed and dealt right with, then you continue living with a broken relationship with your conscious and unconscious mind. It's like it's not safe to be in your body because it's not safe to be you.
Wow.
I mean, there wasn't a question there, but I just wanted to tease that out. So it's entirely possible to clear trauma. The beliefs must be part of it as well. And then also, like with the process that we use, it's always like, what did that little person or that teenager or even that younger you need to, what does she or he need to think, feel, and experience in order to feel safe and okay? And so essentially you're going back to rescue yourself. You're going back as the protective adult, because you didn't have that back then. You're going back to give that younger you what you didn't have. And that is beautiful. Like that is restoring. That is lovely. Yeah,
that struck me as a really beautiful thing to do. Really, I want to do that. Okay. We do have some preset questions we promised we'd get through, plus a Q&A. So is it okay if I move to number 3? Why pain? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about why pain and symptoms in the body stick around even after physically treating with diet and supplements. And I feel like we have spoken a little bit about this, but we have. So with here's the science behind it. Like this is kind of cool, because it's like, it's actually not just like, oh, it's not just all in your head, as in you're just like have anxiety and you're making this all up. It kind of is in your head at this point. So like if we took the case of SIBO, for example, or even for me when all the heartburn and histamine stuff flared up again, like a really big physical pathogen that caused that initially was Helicobacter pylori. Which is why I had significant improvement, if not eradication, of the heartburn and histamine issues for a few years. But because I'd created really strong neural pathways that when something triggered me, then the symptom will come back. So this is what is happening here when, and it really perplexed me too. So when I was just practicing just standard functional medicine and clinical nutrition, there were clients that would do everything perfectly. Like they were like A+ clients. I knew that whatever I told them to do, they would do it. Yet I'm thinking about 3 in particular. They got no results at all. Like their symptoms did not budge. And so this is where, when you've had chronic pain or symptoms for a long time, your brain actually creates hard neural pathways. So it's kind of like a little baby when they're learning to walk. They're stumbling, they're trying, they're learning, and they're creating initially just soft neural pathways. And then when that walking becomes autonomic, and as adults, we don't even have to think about it anymore, that's a hard neural pathway. And so it's just like a way that the brain and the body can act really fast. And so that's what also happens with physical symptoms. So if you've had, whether it's a physical initial stressor or even something like trauma, the body will speak to you with symptoms. And in regards to if it was maybe a physical thing initially, even if you clear, say, SIBO or a pathogen, or you've now taken out inflammatory foods and you're eating healthy foods, yet the symptoms are still there, it's because your brain still has these hard neural pathways. So every time you have a little trigger, whether it's stress or
or a food, like maybe you're eating onion, or it's a smell. So sometimes it's perfume for people, and you get the migraine or the bloating or even the anxiety or even the chronic fatigue. It's just because the body still has these neural pathways happening in the system. And so the cool thing is you can deconstruct those, you can break them down, they can disintegrate, and you can replace them with new ones so that your body is back to normal functioning. It's just amazing. When you combine that with all the belief and deeper identity work, then it's just like I'm very... Look, I don't like to say there's one modality that fixes everything, but when you do this deep work, it kind of is where the healing, that's where the healing is at. Because when you can trust yourself, when you can deeply love yourself, when you're listening to yourself and you're listening to your intuition and to the signals from your body, then your inner self, your unconscious state, wants to keep you safe and well. And so when you listen to those signs and those symptoms, then it's always going to take you to goodness and happiness.
Wow. I was distracted because I got a notification on my computer top right saying Chris and Philly just have a new YouTube video on. So you've just released a new YouTube video.
Have we? Okay, cool. That's hilarious.
But look, I think that's quite amazing. And I think that also, like I said before, how, we often feel like the metaphysical is so airy-fairy, but we are just seeing study after study after study come out that actually explains the science behind why all these things that we've always felt like, ancient Chinese medicine have, had these theories and for thousands of years, and we've just missed it in our Western society. And then we are now learning, okay, well, that makes sense because this study now shows it. But I find it quite fascinating that we seem to need that study. But my mind works a little bit like that too. I love, so I love that. Thank you for explaining that. There are some questions coming through, and for those who are sending questions through, we've got one last little point we're going to talk about this little segment. That there's 4 areas that Philly focuses on. For anyone who's like, there are 4 areas that Philly focuses on when ending body burnout with her clients and in her book. And we're talking about one of them tonight, which is heal thy mind. We've spoken about 3 points. And the last point within that is a juicy one. How can we, here we go. How can we reprogram the unconscious? That's, I think, meant to say regulate. Sorry, my type.
Regulate, yeah. No, that's my typing.
Regulate the nervous system and retrain the brain so that body systems can heal. And look, some of the questions that have been coming through fall into this category. So I think this is where we need to go.
Awesome. Well, what I might do, because honestly, we'd probably have to stay here for a few weeks to cover this. Yeah. So I might give you the kind of like the three important things one must do in order to heal the body at this deeper level. And then if there's questions and specific things, I'm very happy to kind of then branch out and talk about this specifically. So, I always think about there's 3 things. Well, first of all, if there's physical inflammation happening that hasn't yet been addressed, then as you're doing that, it's going to make this work way faster and way more effective because you're not fighting against physical inflammatories. So I definitely never discount the physical stuff, but I'm very big on the metaphysical stuff. So first of all, identifying your deepest core unconscious belief, because what you don't know, you can't change. So a lot of people, I guess it's like showing up on Instagram or memes all the time is like, I think it's just I'm not enough, maybe, like I'm not enough. And so if you're trying to reprogram that to I am enough, when actually that's not the core dysfunctional root belief, maybe it's something deeper and something more specific, then you're not actually specifically reprogramming the thing that you need. So identifying that deepest core root belief is really important, and then reprogramming those unconscious beliefs, because when you do the identity work, all the other stuff just happens so much faster. And so from a reprogramming unconscious beliefs, well, we can't do it consciously. So we're only 5% conscious mind and 95% unconscious, which is also why a lot of talk therapy doesn't really work all that well, or it takes a really long time to work, because you're only addressing 5% of the mind, and that is not where all the baggage is. And so there's different things too. And also if you start, let's just say, like, you're looking in the mirror every morning, I am enough, or I am strong and capable, or I am lovely, your unconscious mind is going to be like, no, we're not, because it's ruling you. It's 95% of you. And so you need to use different practices that actually guide the unconscious state to start believing something new. And I love words like, I choose to know. I choose to know that I am enough, because at some point you chose that you didn't. And so then when the unconscious hears that, there's less resistance, because it's like, okay, we're going to start doing something, choosing something new now. Okay. It's really profound. Like, it's so simple, but so profound.
I love
also
that.
Safety. Safety is really important. I choose to know it's safe, to know that I'm worthy, or that I'm not broken, whatever it is. Because your system, you've created these dysfunctional beliefs to try and protect you. So for example, like the rose lady in the book, she's like, okay, cool. Well, if I create this belief that I'm unlovable based on what's happened and my sense making around this, then when I get rejected, it's going to hurt less, because I'm unlovable. So whereas if a child had this like deep, profound belief that I am lovable, and they go out into the world and they're getting bullied and rejected and hurt, it is probably going to hurt a whole heap more. And so your whole system has been holding on to these beliefs to try and protect you, even though it's causing more dysfunction. So safety is really important. Then using your body, the feelings inside your body to get your unconscious mind on board as well. I know that sounds kind of vague. And then when it comes to retraining the brain and regulating the nervous system to actually start switching symptoms, then that's where it's safe again. Like, it's safety. It's all about safety. You only have pain in the body because something is unsafe, whether it's the deeper beliefs, or you smell something and there's a new neural trigger pathway that is like, oh, that's dangerous, even though it's actually not. And so the more that you can flood your body with feel-good feelings and using unconscious processes, like we use a lot of neuro-linguistic programming and the Richard's trauma process, and like incorporating things like breath work and meditation and that sort of stuff. And then the way that you speak about your body and to your body really matters as well. So instead of so with the heartburn, for example, my heartburn, I stopped saying, oh, the heartburn. And instead I started saying, wow, I'm really feeling my gut digest food right now. So it wasn't like I wasn't pretending it wasn't there, but I was retraining my brain to start thinking about it in a different way to move towards what I wanted. As opposed to if we get stuck in the bloating, the migraine, the headache, the pain, well, then the brain is looking for evidence for that. So it's just like, and that neural pathway gets stronger and stronger and stronger. So that's how you can start breaking down neural pathways too, is like simply by changing the words that we use. So the brain is starting to search for new evidence for that.
Isn't language so powerful? I could feel that when you shifted that from reflux to I can feel my gut digesting my food. I thought that was great.
Yeah, well done. And I was like, well done, gut. Well, yeah, I'm really feeling it today.
So good. Is there more you want to share? Because I'm seeing those questions flow through, but I don't want to miss any gold little nuggets that you've got to share.
Go to the questions.
I know you can talk forever and a day about this, and your book is full of actually just such action, like really good prompts to get you thinking and moving along these things. I was really impressed with the gathering of questions and processes and the suggested pathway that you can travel as you go down this way. Because I think what's held me back for so long, because I've been quite open to doing this work on myself for quite some time, but also so busy doing things, and there was no clear pathway. Like, how do I work on myself? What questions do I ask myself? How do I identify my self-limiting beliefs? And I hadn't invested myself enough to actually discover it all, that I was just kind of not doing it because there was no clear pathway. And what I love about your book is that it gives you a pathway. And that was a question that was there too. So
yeah.
I'm going to scroll back up. Now, everyone, if you have a question for Philly, please put it in the comments. We will try. I know it's getting late for a lot of people, so we're going to try our best to get through them, but I can't promise we'll get through everything. I'm just going to go and have a look to see which questions we've missed, and I'm going to pop it up on the screen.
While you're doing that, I just, so I've popped a link. I don't know where it is now, but it's in the comment section, a link to the book if anyone wants to pre-order the book. So the book is not physically out until the end of the month or beginning of November. But I've also included, so anyone who pre-orders the book before it's physically released, you get $291 worth of bonuses. And we go deeper into a lot of the stuff that we talked about tonight as well. So
Can you actually
beating... Oh, what was that?
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I'm actually, the bonuses are not just like, oh, here's a free ebook, here's this, here's that. She's actually doing live workshops with people who buy the book. Can you just tell people about that?
Yeah. Okay. So there is a live workshop where it's called Communicating with Symptoms. And so we're going to go far deeper into like, how do we talk to the symptoms coming from our body and how do we then switch them off? So there's a whole workshop where my husband and I, Chris, will go through people, and you'll also get a recorded, really specific process that we use with all our clients to start shifting symptoms. And then there's 2 pre-recorded ones. So there's a gut movement masterclass. That's more around the physical side of things, but that's so much fun. Mm-hmm. That was so much fun to put together. It was all my knowledge around how to use the body to support the vagus nerve, the stomach, the intestines, the bowels. So you get that masterclass, and also our 3-day Beating Body Burnout and Perfectionism short course, which goes over body systems. In that one too, this day 2, we go deeper into like, how do you identify that core deep root cause belief? And then the 3rd day, we talk a lot about foods and movement to support the adrenals and burnout. So you get the whole adrenal ebook. Yeah. Go for it, buy the book, you get all the things.
Honestly, I think they're probably the best bonuses I've actually seen. Okay, Carrie, this was the first question. Carrie said, so are you using CBT or other techniques?
I actually don't specifically know what CBT is. I know it's talk therapy though. So no, we don't. We use now, if someone has done CBT, you might find that some of the processes that we use initially, because there's a lot of deconstructing of behavioral patterns, symptom patterns, and then identifying deep root cause beliefs. So we use what's called transformational coaching throughout that. Then we flip into more unconscious processes like NLP. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember what it's called. NLP is amazing. And also we use a really specific trauma process for some clients called TRTP trauma therapy. And that is just the most beautiful, in-depth, unconscious process over 2 weeks, 3 sessions over 2 weeks that clears trauma.
Amazing. I wanted to, this is
common sense as well. Like it's just teaching people how to listen to and use their own intuition to give their body and their unconscious what it needs. So yeah, there's like specific processes and modalities, but the power is when someone can deeply communicate with themselves.
Love it. This is not a question, but I wanted to put it up because it's gold. Carrie realizes that her self-talk definitely doesn't help. Before she was diagnosed as being on the spectrum, I was so hard. Oh, sorry, ADHD perhaps. I was so hard on myself. Yeah, she's got the message. Okay. Next question. Carrie also said, is there a workbook to go along with the book? I feel like the workbook is kind of woven into the book.
Yeah. Okay. So also when the physical book is released, there will be more bonuses. Not like a specific workbook. Look, Chris and I are thinking of doing, we've got like 4 books in the works, but we are potentially thinking of putting together a workbook. It will be very in depth around what we call our spark process, which is the metaphysical healing. But people can also, like, not yet, but I'm thinking of maybe even turning that portion of our ending body burnout method into a DIY course as well, for like a cheaper option for people who might not be able to afford doing group coaching or one-on-one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's exciting. All right. Does functional medicine include some kind of counseling to change self-beliefs? Well, we did go into that, didn't we?
No, when I was taught functional medicine, no. And that's why what we do is really different. So where my husband is an NLP master practitioner, and he did a lot of stuff while I was doing all the physical study and everything. So we've kind of brought both of our modalities together to create our process, which is the ending body burnout method. But no, it's pretty rare that you go to a practitioner who is a functional medicine doctor or practitioner and they're doing this type of deeper root cause work.
Yeah, and that's I guess that's how you are revolutionizing that type of functional medicine and I feel like this is the way forward for health. We need to combine all of these modalities into one. And that's where you and Chris powerhouses come together and do just that. I've seen you guys work together and it's very powerful.
I haven't publicly ever announced this, but we're thinking of doing a functional medicine school, like specific for the holistic approach. That's like our next business venture.
When do you guys stop? I feel like this could be a whole nother chat, but you're specialists in ending body burnout, but seeing all the things you do, you must have some pretty fantastic prevention strategies to not end up back in body burnout while juggling the 3 kids and the business and all the things. So maybe we can get you back sometime and talk about prevention strategies. Is the book price on the website Australian or US dollars?
Australian. Yeah, Australian. If anyone is overseas, the postage is only for Australia, but the book will be on Amazon, Book Depository, all those online outlets, which might be a cheaper way of getting it if you're living out of Australia.
Right. Okay. Are there any meditation resources or apps that you would recommend? What a great question.
Well, I mean, in our program, we've got heaps and it's a really specific process. We call it a 21-day rewire, and it's step-by-step building onto new practices every day. In terms of other resources or apps, I personally don't use anything else. My husband loves Calm app. He also loves breath work, but I kind of just do my own thing. I make my stuff up.
Well, you can with the knowledge that's in your head. Okay, no, that's great. Have you tried Insight Timer? Okay, or maybe that might have been in response to the other question.
I haven't, but I'm pretty sure that's what my husband uses. I mean, if I called him in, he's like app king, and I'm pretty sure he has used Insight Timer that he likes.
The course that you said was a bonus when you do the pre-release purchase of the book, how long do you have access to it for?
Gee, I haven't actually specified that, so I think unlimited.
Lifetime access. Beautiful. Guys, we flew through those questions. That's amazing. I was trying to get through them quick because I thought we'd be here all night, but it is quite late. I am so very grateful for your time. I think you've opened up not a can of worms. I feel like you've opened up a new season, a new chapter for me to really go. And you have to feel ready for it. I probably wasn't ready for it a few years ago, but now I am. And this is just the perfect timing for me personally. So personally, I'm very thankful for you coming tonight and for sort of levering this little new world open for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely being in your community, which I always am anyway, but actually being able to speak to your people. It's so cool. I love what you do. You're awesome. Everyone loves you.
Well, it's not about that. Thank you very much.
Most people.
But we've got some people starting to say thank you as well for your chat.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? I will do a follow-up post with all the different places that people can find Philly and Chris. The YouTube notification of their YouTube channel that interrupted me earlier, I'll put that up there. And of course, the link to Philly's book that you can pre-order now. The estimated arrival date is maybe around the end of the month. And of course, you get those incredible bonuses that Philly's throwing in as well. So guys, this is such a fantastic opportunity to buy something of great worth, but also get lots of other things that you can really dive into as well. But having read a large portion of the book, I can tell you that it is far more than what I expected in such an easy to read, beautiful, casual, enjoyable journey of reading. It's lovely. And I'm not just saying that because Philly's here. I'm not just saying that because she's my friend, but I think you could feel it, Philly, when I jumped online with you before we went live. I was just like, Philly, that book is amazing, because I hadn't spoken to you about the book before. So guys, please do yourself a favor, grab the book, and I promise you won't regret it. And Kay just did your online quiz. Kay, I've done that quiz as well, Kay. Kay just did the Ending Body Burnout Assessment, which is a free tool on your website. She said, I'm really excited to see what I can do. Oh, there's another one.
Yeah. The other one I was talking about earlier is in the Body Burnout and Perfectionism short course that you will get as a bonus. So you will have that.
Beautiful. Okay. Can I get the book as an audio option? I actually searched for an audio option today, but I think it's a bit early. I was on Spotify.
It is a bit early. It would have been amazing if I had it ready with the physical book as well, but it will be coming. I don't have it yet. I want to personally record it because I think it's nice when you hear the author reading it. Yeah. So I will have to carve out some time to do that.
Yes, with all your other 4 books in the pipeline, I'm not sure when you'll get time for that. Carrie said, when do we get access to the course, the bonus course?
Immediately. So not the live one. We haven't set a date for that one yet, but it will be in November. But the other 2, you get those immediately in your inbox, and then it will send you to a page with the courses.
So good. Very generous offer, you guys. I think this is wonderful. Okay, we're going to call it a night and say good night. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, Carrie just bought the book. Woo!
Oh, yeah. So Carrie.
I mean, I could talk here with Philly by myself all night, but it's also it's so lovely having you guys join us tonight. Thank you for sending in your questions. Wherever you are in your body burnout journey, hopefully it's preventing, but in reality, I know a lot of us are either in the thick of it or starting to heal. And I just want to encourage you along. I feel like I've just come out of it, but now ready for this deeper sort of mind work. And I'm so excited to do that. And I feel like that there is light at the end of the tunnel for each of us. I know that it can feel like we can be so stuck. I know that we can feel like no one else has circumstances like ours. No one understands. I am stuck here. There is no way out. But I can promise you, with the right support and assistance, you really can find a way out. You really can find a way through it. And even if you are still living with those external stressors, you can find a new way of existing within all of that. Do you have any final words, Philly?
No, you say it so beautifully. Just thank you so much for everyone who's turned up live or watching the recording. Very grateful, and very grateful to you too, Lainey. And just your honesty as well. It's so refreshing and so helpful for everyone else as well.
You got to be real. We're all human. But thank you. All right, we're going to call it a night. Love you guys. Speak to you later. Bye-bye.